Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty. It's Thursday, February the 16th, I believe, Aidan, or as I know it, my mortgage rocketing price today. That's the day, but hey, that's another story altogether. But hey, I'm over it. Honest, I am. And I'm joined today by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C. Macdonald. I'm at A Haggerty 10 in case you wondered, but you're already well aware of those Twitter handles. Aidan, how are you?
I'm good, Tony. How are you?
I'm all right. Wait till mortgages and responsibility hit you, sir. I tell you, rude awakening. But hey, I told you,
Can't wait, Tony.
I told
Can't
you,
wait.
I'm over it. Eh, I'm over it. I'm
You're
fine.
not bitter about it, and I
I'm
like
moving
that.
on. Yeah, I'm moving on. Anyway, first things first. We'll direct everybody to the ticker tape running along the bottom, and as you can see, a wonderful, wonderful offer we've got for you. Guys, you need to get involved in this. Everybody get involved. New subscribers, existing subscribers. You can win 2 tickets to see Celtic versus Rangers in the League Cup final, and that's on Sunday, February the 26th. And as I say, it's open to existing subscribers. Look out for that form dropping into your email inbox. Fill out the form, send it back. You'll be in the draw. And if you're a new subscriber, welcome. Thanks very much for subscribing. It'll cost you £1 for 3 months to get access to everything that we write on the website, and you will also fill in the same form and you'll be entered into the draw to win these 2 tickets. And one lucky subscriber is on their way to Hampden, Aidan. Can I say fairer than that, can we?
No, it's a really good opportunity. I mean, obviously, whether you maybe missed out in the ballot like myself for the League Cup final,
But you're over that, Aidan.
I'm over that definitely. Or maybe you've not had a chance to get a ticket for a game of Hanfield. This is a really good chance to get to what's going to be one of the biggest games of the season, isn't it, Tony? And as well as that, as Tony mentioned, you get access to big interviews conducted by Tony and Sean, tactics pieces, scoutings, columns by people like Kevin McKenna, etc. So, yep, get yourself involved if you've not already signed up.
Brilliant. And we also say thank you to SENECA Medical Group. And as you know, the Celtic Way morning briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. We say thank you to SENECA for their sponsorship. Now, guys, we're going to turn it over to you today as well. Get your questions coming in to the comment section, and I'll bombard young Aidan with those questions, and you can get his fearless verdict on everything. So, yeah, if you want to give us your questions, please do. And we'll start today as a jumping off point by talking about Aberdeen, Aidan. The Celtic play Aberdeen on Saturday. Managerless Aberdeen, but we reckon that they might make an announcement soon. Maybe try and get that wee manager bounce, as they say, for the first game against Celtic. Don't know who that's going to be, but what we do know is that ex-Celtic midfielder Barry Robson is more likely to be part of that management team. Aidan, what say you to that? Do you care who becomes the Aberdeen manager? Do you care if they announce him before the Celtic game? And would you be worried that they do get a manager bounce if it is someone of repute?
I mean, obviously, the manager bounce is something that does usually have an impact. I mean, probably a recent one being Everton, who were absolutely in the doldrums. Sean Dyche came in, and then they obviously beat Arsenal, who at that time were top of the league. But I think probably in terms of Celtic Aberdeen, I just think Celtic are playing so well. It's all about Ange and how he sets the team up. I don't know if a new manager bounce would make that much of a difference before this game, Tony, to be honest. And I think probably given that it's Thursday, it may be a wee bit too soon now for a game on Saturday to put somebody straight in the dugout. But
Sure.
it would be
Yeah.
interesting, obviously, even if Barry Robson was maybe to take the team till the end of the season. He's also been an interim charge. It's a sort of first managerial opportunity for him. So, I mean, it would be a factor, and I would understand why it would maybe be discussed whether or not it can make a difference. But I just think in terms of the way Celtic are playing right now domestically, I wouldn't see it having too much of an outcome in the game personally.
Yep. Now, here's a couple of stats for you, Aidan. Celtic are on a 5-game winning streak against Aberdeen. They've won 11 out of the last 13 against the Dons in all competition, and they last lost to the Reds on May the 13th, which is the final day of the season, 2018, and they played them twice this season. They won 1-0 at Pittodrie, courtesy of Callum McGregor's goal, and they won 2-0, first game of the season, courtesy of Stephen Welsh and Jota's goal. So the form book suggests that Celtic are in good nick heading into this one. Obviously, Celtic are at home, but got to turn up, Aidan. You've got to play. You've got to, earn the right to win football matches, and yet you are confident in any team that Ange Postecoglou picks that if they play their brand of football, they can triumph and win these matches.
Yeah, I mean, if the team turn up and they're playing at the best of their ability, then I would kind of expect them to be able to get a result in the majority of domestic matches, particularly at home, given how good the record is as well, Tony.
Yeah.
Ange's sort of home domestic record is superb since he's came in. I know there's been tough games in Europe, but in the League Cup and the Scottish Cup and in the Scottish Premiership, there's been pretty much flawless at home outside of the odd draw. So that plays a factor as well in this, and I would hope that if everything sort of went to plan, that Celtic would be able to get a good result at the weekend.
Nice one. Right, Aidan, going to throw this at you. Scott McGill, to start on Saturday, and I think that's the assumption, and Barry Robson is charged still for this game. Well, the assumption here is that Kyogo won't make it still to hear about Kyogo's scans on his shoulder injury. Probably hear more tomorrow, maybe sometime today if we're fortunate. But do you put O through the middle, Aidan, or are you a Maeda man through the middle? Just ease O gently into everything that's going on?
I think it is a difficult one, particularly with, you don't want to look too far ahead, but with the cup final coming up soon as well. I can imagine that if Ange does have a sort of inkling right now that Kyogo isn't going to be fit, he's maybe going to want to really have the exact team in terms of the forward line anyway, starting this game against Aberdeen, so they get a sort of, 70, 80 minutes under their belt. I would like to see O start just out of curiosity, really, but I'd imagine it will be Maeda or Abada potentially through the middle. Maeda probably being the most likely option, given that he sort of transitioned through the middle of the park at the weekend when last weekend when Kyogo first went off. So I think it might be Maeda, to be honest. But if Lowe was to start, I wouldn't have any objections, but it might just be a wee bit too soon, just in terms of the minutes he's had so far, Tony. I think maybe you'd be wanting to give him another half an hour, maybe 40 odd minutes or so before he actually started the game.
Well, it took Maeda all of 90 seconds to score last week when he, as you say, transitioned to centre forward, and he scored a very Kyogo-esque goal, which really impressed me. We spoke about that on Monday, but I wouldn't have any qualms about playing either or through the middle, Aidan, at all. I'm liking the look of O. I think every Celtic fan wants to see more of him, but I agree that if you introduce him gently and then unleash him at some point where you see fit. But yeah, he's certainly looking, and Maeda's just playing out his skin at the moment, as he's just hit that real purple patch where not only is he contributing attack-wise defensively as well, he's scoring goals. And Sean's looking good for his double figures bet and a couple of pints, whoever he's had a bet on with him. So good luck to you, boss, in that one. I think you'll be imbibing lagers soon, methinks. But Aidan, yeah, and I quite like the look of Maeda through the middle as well. Certainly, it's not going to cause any major disruption to the team, is it, Aidan?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, you do kind of want to recognise striker through the middle, but from that sort of small sample size and the odd game that he's had through the middle in the past, he's looked okay. I know that I think there was a game against Hibs last season. It might have been the 0-0 draw at Easter Road that I think he might have started through the middle, Tony. And he did struggle a wee bit. But then after that, when he sort of got regularly played in his sort of left forward position, he then, or sometimes on the right, he was then pretty consistent from there on. But if he's playing through the middle against Aberdeen, particularly starting the game, I wouldn't automatically look and think that puts the team at a severe disadvantage. Obviously, you would like to have Kyogo available, but I think given his scoring record, like you mentioned this season, his finishing is definitely something he's worked on. I think he's more than capable of doing the job. That
Easter Road game, Aidan, the 0-0 game, I thought Celtic were particularly flat. That's the one and only time I've got the mate treatment from Ange, and not in a good way. I asked him about the team being particularly flat, and he kind of asked me where I watched the game, and I said from the press box, and he said, yes, it figures. That kind of thing. Gave me that kind of chat. But my follow-up question to that was, well, if they weren't flat, I want to know what you're seeing that I'm not seeing. And I kind of asked him like that. And then he started talking about that football was more about just results, performance. And he said he saw a team that was trying to win and all that, and they created all sorts of chances. And I said, okay. And then at the end, I sort of said, look, I wasn't having a dig. And he said, no, fine. He was all right with it. He said the second part of my question was kind of, because I was like, okay, you tell me, educate me, tell me what I'm not seeing. And he did. He kind of spoke away. And after that, I always feel that if you come away enlightened about something in a presser, then you know the manager's worth their salt and there's good value. And he was that day, but the initial glance of saying to him that a Celtic team that he set out were flat wasn't really the best response. But I think a lot of Celtic supporters agreed with me that day at Easter Road that Celtic were a wee bit flat and finding that. And I kind of laughed. I didn't mind. I didn't mind the mate treatment. I thought, you know, you've no left till you get the mate treatment from Ange. But it wasn't a stupid question per se, but he sort of gave me that glance and stare, and I was like, oh dear, here we go. But yeah, as I say, it was good fun, good bit of verbal jousting. Now, Blind as a Bat comes in talking about Maida, talking about scoring goals, and he's saying, do you think Celtic will set a new goals record this season, eclipsing Brendan Rodgers' side, Aidan? Now, I'm glad he said Brendan Rodgers' side, because Aidan, that's your era. You can comment exclusively on that. We're not talking about the distant past, and Brendan Rodgers is your team, the invincible team, and all that. Do you think they can do that, Aidan? Is that within their grasp?
I mean, pretty much on track. Obviously, if we're just kind of talking about like league goals, I think is it 78 for the season or something like that, and I believe the record is it Martin O'Neill's team. I think they have it. It's about 105, 106 or something. So the Celtic are pretty much on track to beat that, I would say. Anyway, I would need to check specific numbers in terms of the goals that Brendan Rodgers' team scored, but I'd imagine it'll be over 100 probably in the league anyway, maybe just under that. I think it could happen, Tony. See if there's going to be more games like that one at the weekend, even the game that just passed against St Mirren, where it's maybe looking not tight for a while because Celtic were in control, but the scoreline maybe not that convincing. And then, you know, bang, they score like whatever it was, 4 goals in like the last 15 minutes or something like that. So if there's going to be more games like that, you're just constantly hitting, you know, 4 or 5 goals, then you probably could quite quickly hit a new record, whether that be beating Martin O'Neill's team or even Rodgers' team. So, yeah, I think it could happen. Obviously, that was such a good team, the Invincible team. It's in the name, isn't it? The fact, obviously, won 3 trophies going on undefeated. Probably going to be quite difficult to ever really see that happening in the near future. But, yeah, I think Celtic this season could surpass it in terms of goals, because the amount of times they're just thrashing teams, really, even maybe in games when you think it wasn't exactly a vintage performance, but they're still, you know, hitting 4 or 5 goals. So, yeah, I would say they're probably on track, Tony, at the moment, unless they suddenly were to hit a lot of injuries or something like that. I would probably be surprised if they actually didn't break at least some sort of goal scoring record between now and the end of the season.
I hesitate to say it, Aidan, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've become kind of synonymous with the phrase that I call about Celtic and scoring goals, and I call them the rip-roaring, free-scoring, never boring Glasgow Celtic. And I think Angie's team kind of epitomised that, or have epitomised that, as you say. They have scored a lot of goals, and they have been a bit rip-roaring and free-scoring, and you're certainly never boring when you watch Celtic. You know you're going to get something, and they have been a joy to watch at times. You look at the 9 against Dundee United, you know, they've regularly taken 5, and St Johnstone have always ended up with an Inverness clacking a curtain off Celtic at some point, haven't they, you know? So, a scudding, as I call it. But yeah, there've been lots of high points in terms of goals for Celtic, and I certainly don't think it's beyond them to eclipse that mark. I think deep down, although publicly they wouldn't say it, I think privately, when you have wee kind of goals like that, and somebody makes you aware of that, players, it's only natural that players will maybe think, yeah, let's see if we can do that.
I think when you're quite close to it as well, like I said, you know, late 70s in terms of goals scored in the league, you're sort of approaching being able to hit record numbers. So I would guess that the closer it gets, the more maybe somebody mentions it around the dressing room. I mean, obviously the priority is winning the trophies, and you know, if they don't break any records but they win 3 trophies, we're not going to be complaining come the end of the season. But I think that having like maybe individual targets like that probably does keep you ticking over the course of the sort of whole campaign, Tony.
Brian Roberts comes in with a good sentiment here, Aidan. 5 against Rangers would help.
Only we'd only be one more, to be fair, the 4-0 game earlier this season, so you never know.
Yeah, Scott McGill comes in and says this has got to be one of the best defences we've seen since Martin O'Neill's 0.72 goals conceded. Thoughts on that? Well, you're talking about that defence there, Aidan. It's been quite imperious since Ange came in. That domestic record at home, and then Carl Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers not being in a losing team when the two of them have played together.
Yeah, and in the league, they've not lost a single domestic game. I don't think, which is a pretty impressive start, to be honest. And the defence has been so important, and there was also a lot made when Ange came in about how, games in Japan, etc. This point has been a bit exhausted today if I'm going to make, but just since we were, that games in Japan were ending, I don't know, like 5 each, things like that. He would always rather try and have an exciting game maybe rather than winning a 1-0 or that. But it's been very much shown since he came to Celtic that if it's got to be done, they will grind out results. It will be tight games, and the clean sheet record's been excellent. Obviously, I had did the newsletter a few weeks ago, and a couple of weeks ago, sorry, and they were talking about the clean sheet record, and I know they ended up not getting it against St Mirren, but if they had kept a clean sheet, that would have then tied a record that had been in place since Brendan Rodgers' sort of double treble season. Obviously, the one that Neil Lennon came in to subsequently finish, but so that was the sort of company that the team was keeping in terms of being really solid defensively, because obviously that was a very sort of successful squad, probably one of the most successful really since the last 20 years, and the fact that the team defensively was in with those numbers and could potentially be up there with their goal scoring numbers as well just shows you how well and just got the squad playing, to be honest. And the defence is so important, and I know we don't need to go through maybe and list all the players individually, but somebody like Cameron Carter, because I know obviously Tony, you had your piece with Alan Stubbs recently just talking about what a great signing he's been, and he's been phenomenal, hasn't he, really? Carter.
Oh, it has, definitely, yeah. Now here's one, Pam67 comes in and says, Greg Taylor says he wants a song. Any suggestions, Tony and Aidan? Do you know what? Maybe have to consult my old man on that, Aidan. He's a whiz when it comes to songs. Give you a quick story on that. Boy said to me, used to work Daily Record, obviously, one of my colleagues said, your dad, Rick, can write a song about anything? I said, yeah, anything. And he said, okay, Chris Hoy. And I was driving to Hibs training or Hibs presser. And I saw it, and he hung up the phone. So he gave me a song about Chris Hoy. So I phoned my father and I said, look, you've been charged with a task. You need to come up with a song for Chris Hoy. And he went, leave it with me. And I kid you not, within about 2 minutes, he phoned me back and he's singing down the phone, all your life you've been boring, round and round on laminate flooring, Chris Hoy. And I nearly swerved off the road. Honestly, it was just priceless, right? So I'll consult the expert on that.
Excellent.
And I'll try and come back with a song for Greg Taylor when I speak to the old man. But yeah, that gives you kind of, you know where I get it from, basically. I am my father's son, as they say. So yes, Pam, I'll endeavour to come back with you for a song for Greg Taylor at some point. But that's the standard that we're setting here. So leave it with me. Now, guys, we've been talking about various things. Give Taylor the Tierney song, says Marquis. Don't know if Celtic supporters would wear that. Players have got a song for a reason, haven't they? So we'll see. But yeah, guys, keep your questions coming in. Angela Tyrell, Tony should be in cabaret. I'd probably put in stocks and people throw rotten fruit at me. Kevin Ferry, a good one, Tony. Yes, indeed, yes. Vero. Listen, we're everything to all men and women on here. I told you before, we don't take ourselves that seriously, do we, Aidan? But I'm looking at these. Yeah. I'm looking at these next 2 games, Aidan. Big bearing on the season. Someone's calculated, or I think there's a school of thought out there that 10 games could win the title, starting with the Aberdeen game.
Yeah,
countdown on for that, and also the League Cup final, not to look too far ahead, but first leg of a potential treble. But you'll see what shape Celtic are in after these next 2 games. And Sean was talking about the next 6 weeks coming up. as a block of games, that'll be crucial to Celtic's season. But the next couple of games in particular will have a big bearing on how the rest of it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, the Aberdeen game, you want to keep your 9-point lead in the league. Obviously, Celtic and Rangers both playing at the same time this weekend, 3 o'clock on the Saturday. Rangers away at Livingston, so it's maybe been a wee while outside of, particularly at the weekend anyway, they've both been kicking off at the exact same time, so that always adds a wee edge. So you want to be winning that to retain your 9-point league and then be going into the cup final on a positive frame of mind. And then I'm sure we'll not really go too much into the cup final, will we? Because it will be getting spoken about to death next week. But yeah, you want to be in a good frame of mind going into that game because it is so important, and they've got to do that by playing well and getting a result against Aberdeen.
Yeah, and I you trust this team at home, don't you, Aidan? It was 1-0, 75 minutes, 77 minutes on Saturday. You alluded to it there that it took a while to break them down, but once they broke them down, they broke them down all right.
Yeah, Celtic scored 4 goals, sorry, I hadn't, but technically there was 5 goals, wasn't there? Because obviously they scored a penalty as well, so 5 goals in the last 18 minutes or something, if you include the end added time. So yeah, it just could have just turned up for the last 18 minutes, to be honest. The value for money. But yeah, it does show you that really they do, as we know, the team never stop at this point, go right until the end, etc. And it's an important trait to have because obviously that example against St Mirren, Celtic were already winning the game, but that could have been a match where you were getting beat or where it was a draw. So the fact that you're keeping going and scoring goals right until the end is invaluable, really, and something that should serve Celtic well, hopefully, between now and the end of the season.
Now, Aidan, there was a question from Jason Mudgard came in, and he was saying, could you explain the stats that showing Celtic having diminishing less shots and expected goals? I don't know if you have that to hand or offhand you know about that.
But I don't have that to hand on me right now, Tony. I don't know if that is from something that I've written recently, potentially from the defensive article, but I will dig that out for tomorrow, for on the briefing tomorrow, so I can have a look at that.
Nice one. Keep your question and comments coming in, guys. Kenny Todd saying 6 out of 8 are Premier games, 18 points clear. And Derek Crawford saying it's effectively 10 points at the minute with Celtic's.
That's a good point to be fair.
That is a good point. On you go, Aidan, sorry.
I'm just going to say that the goal difference is phenomenal, really, this season, and probably something that's because the Celtic do have such a significant lead. It is something that's maybe been forgotten about. You maybe appreciate it more if it was only last season, like a couple of points, because you'd be thinking that is almost what another point. But it is really. I mean, the numbers are excellent. So yeah, that was a point worth highlighting.
Yeah, and Michael Cairn saying they're just relentless. They keep going. Yep, and Big Red coming in saying relentless in a cup game. Boom. I think that's kind of an Archie McPherson type way. And Stevie saying he would have kept Georges Giakoumakis, to be honest. Lads felt he was very clinical in front of goal. We spoke about that the other day, actually. But I don't think that Kyogo or O will be any less clinical. And Ben 515, do you think Aberdeen will try to play like St Mirren and try a leg against us, or will it be an 11-man defence? Well, it depends what way. Well, it doesn't really matter what way you try and play against Celtic, Aidan. They are relentless. They will break you down. So I think lots of people gave kudos to St Mirren last week for having a go. And it was 1-0 up until like 77 minutes, wasn't it? And they were getting plaudits for that. But it ended up 5-1. And I know the penalty and the man being set off had a bearing in that. But Celtic set about them. That's what you do when teams have got 10 men. So whether you have a go or you sit in, Celtic will, at the minute, will always find a way of breaking you down.
Yeah, I mean, the games that have sort of been mentioned there, that was two recent examples of Celtic maybe having to play slightly differently, or not slightly differently, having to play against teams that have set up slightly differently. St Mirren, then obviously Aberdeen right at the start after football came back, but both of them sort of ended with the same result, Celtic winning the game. So I don't think, no matter how Aberdeen's set up, really it will be, as Andrew would say, about Celtic's football, because that is kind of the way that I sort of look at most of these games in terms of if Celtic play well, moving the ball quickly, wanting to make those key passes, then I think whether Aberdeen put everyone behind the ball or try and come out and play, it will probably be the same result, or it will hopefully be the same result.
Big Red comes in. Aberdeen tried that before and they still get done or scudded, as you say, Tony. Yeah. Well, I guess, listen, it's up to individual teams to justify their approach and see what happened. Jim Goodwin got slaughtered for his approach in that Pittodrie game when Callum McGregor made his comeback and scored. But if he gets a 0-0, it all changes, doesn't it? But he didn't get a 0-0. Celtic kept going and wore them down in injury time. And but that's the fine margins there, Aidan. If you play like that, you've got to get a 0-0, haven't you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, obviously that was a game Celtic dominated as well. Like it would have been a bit of a travesty if they didn't win that, to be honest, given the possession stats, the amount of attempts and that. So yeah, I know that they maybe could have got a 0-0, but it would have been very lucky. And but they might. I don't think they'll probably play as defensive as they did under Jim Goodwin in that game, because obviously, even though Jim Goodwin's moved on, the players did get a lot of criticism for that. So they might try and play a wee bit more, but I'm not expecting it to be suddenly a dead expansive Aberdeen performance, to be honest, Tony, in terms of their tactics, but probably maybe not quite as defensive as the last time the two teams met.
Yeah, K Matsu comes in and says anything that gets you a point from Celtic is fair game. I guess so. Kevin Ferrer comes in and says if St Mirren had a go, then other teams should do it. That's football, not parking a bus. David Ferguson, all depends if Robson wants the job or not. He's got to go for it. I agree with that to an extent. St Mirren had a go because it was a cup, says Plunge McNugget. Yeah, there's merit in that as well, isn't there? And Big Red comes back in and says it's going to be hard to stop Celtic on form, goals from every department. And you saw that last week with the introduction of the substitutes, Aidan. 4 of the 5 goals coming from 3 of the substitutes. Matt O'Reilly and Atati getting 2. Okay, 1 was a penalty, but he still scored it. Second one was touch of class. Matt O'Reilly's was a touch of class. First goal for him of the season and opening his account. So yeah, I think there are goals from everywhere, isn't there, which lends people to the thought that they could break or shatter Brendan Rodgers' team's record.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we've also discussed squad depth a lot on this podcast, and the fact that they're able to bring players on to contribute like that to games is really important, because once again, even though Celtic were already winning against St Mirren, there will be games between now and the end of the season going into the last particularly going into the second half, maybe the last sort of 30-35 minutes where Celtic haven't scored. So you're looking for those subs to come on and win you the game. So you want them to be contributing at all times, and they have been at the moment. And getting, just to talk about briefly, because I know this is the first time I've been on since the St Mirren game, but it was great to see Matt O'Reilly getting that first goal in that match, because he's also been brilliant in terms of his assist stats this year. He's been one of the biggest goal contributors in the whole team, despite before that game having not scored. So the fact that he was able to get off the mark with that strike was phenomenal, as well as all getting off the mark as well. That was good to see.
We spoke about it Monday, Aidan, as you say, you were on the briefing. But yeah, there was a touch of relief, I think, for Matt O'Reilly, wasn't there, with that celebration? He kind of jumping in the air and like, thank goodness I've done it,
Yeah, and it was what a way to do it as well, It wasn't a tap-in, it was soft finish.
Yeah. And I said this at the time as well. O's goal was absolutely instinctive. I loved that. Those kind of goals I love. That goalkeeper spills it and your centre forwards there. I love that kind of stuff, that they're anticipating, they're falling in, one touch, bang, it's in the net. So that's the kind of goals where strikers earn their corn, really. And 20-yarders and all that and headers are wonderful, but those kind of bread and butter goals where they make runs or they anticipate things or they go in and for the follow-up and rebounds, I'm all for that, Aidan.
Yeah, definitely. And Yakimakis scored a lot of goals like that, didn't he? So if we're looking for somebody to try and replace that sort of goal-scoring style, then if O's going to keep doing that, then that's excellent. And it is important he's alive in the box, obviously, to score goals. I know that's a basic thing to say, but just in terms of, I know his goal didn't come from that, but we know how much Celtic put crosses in the box, sliding it right along the face of the box and Keelco jumping in and getting it. So if O's sort of dangerous in the penalty box, whether that be with his head or with his feet, then he's going to get opportunities based off the way the team play. So yeah, no, it was good, because I think I had mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I'd liked what I'd seen of O so far, but you don't want it dragging on too long. I know he's not played many games, right? I'm not saying this after like he's made 20 appearances or anything like that, but you don't want it dragging on, particularly when Celtic are playing well and scoring goals and he's not finding the back of the net, because he could potentially become a starter when if Kyogo gets injured, and obviously since then Kyogo has unfortunately picked up a knock, but fingers crossed Kyogo is okay, but like you were saying, Tony, we'll find out more about that in the presser tomorrow.
Correct. And we'll do the predicted lineups, predictions and all that and go into it a wee bit more depth tomorrow. Guys, thanks for your questions. I feel you've been spoiled today. Wee song from, Haggerty 10 there, about Chris Hoy. We'll get a Greg Taylor song. I'll sort that. I'll try. I'll make that one of put it on my to-do list, Aidan. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But guys, just to remind you, you've got to get involved in this. Kevin Ferrer, you were saying about you've not got the form. We'll try and sort that out for you. Look in, as Sean said to you the other day, look in your junk folders and all that as well, because sometimes it gets quarantined and put in there. If not, we'll try and sort it out. But get involved, because you could be at Hampden. You could be on your way to Hampden, as the famous song says. Aidan, 2 tickets up for grabs for the Celtic Rangers League Cup final next Sunday, February the 26th at Hampden. Open to existing subscribers. Fill in that form that's dropping in your email inbox and you'll be in the draw for that. If you're a new subscriber, it costs you £1 for 3 months of unlimited access to everything that's written on the website. Can't say fairer than that. You'll get the same form, fill it in, and one lucky subscriber is going to be there at Hampden. Hopefully myself and Sean will be there. And if you are there, say hello. All right, come up and introduce yourself. We'll thank you for subscribing and we'll have a wee chat about Celtic, obviously, but you've got to be in it to win it. So you could win 2 Celtic Rangers League Cup final tickets, and all for a touch of a button. Click of a button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we also say thank you to SENECA and SENECA Medical Group, now sponsor the Celtic Way morning briefing, and SENECA, the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. You can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. As I say, guys, we can't do it without you. We love the community that we've built here. You're always very kind. You enjoy the interaction. We do as well. Ben515, enjoy Tony's warbling today. There you go. Warbling, Aidan. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. Isn't that right, Aidan? You can vouch for that. Great show, lads. It's Tony off for singing lesson. I probably need to go for singing lessons, yes. I think in an older sense, I think some people will recognise this, Aidan. Not opportunity knocks, more obscurity knocks, I think, for your man here. But Aidan, thanks for your comments today, Aidan, and your contribution. First class as always. Guys, thanks for your comments. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Have a wonderful Thursday. Hopefully see you for a fabulous Friday. Take care.
Cheers, guys.